Okay, so today we're going to dive into this really fascinating paper. It's called God Consciousness as an Anti-Comfort Mechanism. And trust me, it explores this totally counterintuitive idea about growth, purpose, and what that nagging feeling of discomfort might really be trying to tell you. So just think about this for a second. What if that feeling you're always trying to get away from, that restlessness, that slight sense of unease, what if that's actually the one feeling you need the most to move forward? I know it sounds completely backward, right? Because from the time we're kids, we're basically programmed to seek comfort. We build our entire lives around finding stability and a sense of peace. It's our default setting. But what this paper argues is that we need to seriously re-examine that default setting. And that brings us to our first big idea here, the myth of comfort.
Now, from a cognitive science angle, comfort isn't just about feeling cozy. It's actually what's called a cognitive stabilizer. It's basically our brain's go-to mechanism for reducing uncertainty and, just minimizing how hard we have to think. It's a super useful tool that keeps things running on autopilot.
But here's where things get interesting. There's a tipping point. As your awareness of the world, of yourself, of your place in it, as that grows, the psychological cost of doing nothing starts to feel way, way heavier than the cost of actually taking difficult action. And this is the moment the whole game changes. Comfort, which used to feel like safety, slowly starts to feel like stagnation. That safe harbor you built for yourself, it starts to feel a lot more like a cage. So if comfort isn't the ultimate goal, then what the heck is? Well, this leads us right to the core thesis of the paper, something it calls the anti-comfort mechanism.
And you can see here, this draws a really sharp line in the sand. On one side, you have what we might think of as conventional spirituality, something that's often soothing, affirming, maybe even a little escapist. But this idea of God consciousness is the polar opposite. It's directional, it's cost-bearing, it is absolutely non-avoidant. It doesn't let you off the hook.
So what is it exactly? Well, the paper defines it as a sustained awareness of moral truth that exerts directional pressure on your thoughts, choices, and actions. Think about it like this. It's that nagging feeling inside that you should speak up when something's not right at work, even though staying silent would be 1,000 times easier. It's like an internal compass that's constantly pulling you toward what's right, not just what's comfortable.
Okay, so how does this mechanism actually work in our heads? Let's get into our third section here and see how this all builds. Intelligence over impulse. The author grounds this whole concept in the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, and this quote is just so powerful. Action is far inferior to the yoga of intelligence. The idea here isn't just about doing stuff. It's about a disciplined, regulated intelligence, they call it Buddhi Yoga, that guides your actions with real clarity. And here's the process, laid out in 4 pretty clear steps. So our systems, our bodies, our minds, we naturally seek balance, right? Homeostasis. But this moral clarity, this God consciousness, it deliberately disrupts that. It introduces this ethical tension that makes you feel restless. And that discomfort, that's the trigger for a major cognitive reorganization. And this next part is so important to hear. That feeling of restlessness, that sense that you're just not quite aligned with your own life. According to this framework, that is not a pathology. You are not broken. Instead, what's happening is cognitive reorganization. It is literally your internal operating system upgrading itself to align with a deeper, more authentic truth. That discomfort you feel, it's just the sound of the engine turning over. So, all this uncomfortable reorganization, what does it actually lead to? Where are we going with this? Well, that's what Section 4 is all about, the emergence of purpose. Now, this really challenges that whole go find your purpose idea we hear all the time. The paper argues that purpose isn't something you just pick off a shelf. It's emergent. It's the natural result of this whole process of cognitive and ethical realignment. So what does that look like day to day? Well, it means you're basically recalibrating your entire value function. Your whole decision-making process shifts. You stop trying to maximize for immediate pleasure and comfort, and instead you start optimizing for long-term coherence and ethical alignment. And this connects right back to another key idea from the Gita. Better one's own duty imperfectly performed than another's duty well performed. Your purpose isn't about getting a gold star from someone else or perfectly copying their path. It's about taking on your own unique, non-transferable responsibility.
Which brings us to our final section, and this is where it all becomes really practical. Let's talk about an upgrade in responsibility.
This whole framework is so useful because it helps us reinterpret things we all struggle with. It helps us reframe burnout. Maybe it's not just about overload. Maybe it's about deep misalignment. It helps us understand difficult life transitions. It explains why gaining ethical clarity can sometimes feel kind of lonely. And crucially, it helps us tell the difference between the discomfort of growth and an actual pathology.
If you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this quote, because it just sums up the core dynamic perfectly. Comfort maintains the system, purpose transforms it. You see the difference? One is about preservation. The other is all about evolution. And the paper's final conclusion is that this entire process, it isn't a bug in your system, it's a feature. It is a fundamental upgrade in your responsibility architecture, a whole new way of operating in the world. So I'll leave you with this final thought, a question to really reflect on, inspired by this entire framework. Is the discomfort you feel a sign that you're broken, or is it a sign that you're activating?